When Slayer announced Slaytanic Verses, fans around the world felt a storm brewing. This wasn't just another live retrospective, it was a resurrection. After years of silence, the band that brought fear and fascination in equal measure was ready to open their old wounds and dive deep into the chaos that made them legends. Kerry King said it best, "We're not looking back to feel old, we're looking back to remember why it all mattered." For decades, Slayer stood apart, faster than Metallica, darker than Megadeth, and more dangerous than anyone who dared to follow. Their concerts were not shows, they were assaults, explosions of lights, blood, and fire. Slaytanic Verses promised to revisit that madness, to show how four men built one of the most terrifying live experiences in music history. But behind the smoke and aggression was something more human: exhaustion, sacrifice, and the strange brotherhood that came with playing music so violent it became spiritual. This was not nostalgia, it was confession, and for Slayer that meant going deeper than ever before. Long before the fame and controversy, Slayer were just four kids in Huntington Park, California, chasing loud dreams. In 1981, Kerry King and Jeff Hanneman met through sheer fate, two guitarists obsessed with speed, war, and horror movies. They didn't just want to play metal, they wanted to attack it. Their early gigs were chaos: tiny clubs, angry neighbors, cops shutting down shows, but fans began showing up with pentagrams, spikes, and blood-red signs that read Slaytanic Legion. They weren't just listeners, they were believers. Slayer had become more than a band, they were a movement of outsiders united by noise. By 1983, when Show No Mercy came out, it was raw and unholy, recorded for a few $1,000s, but it sounded like the gates of hell opening. Every riff, every scream was a declaration of war on mainstream music. The band's live energy became legend. Fans threw devil horns, firecrackers, even blood. Tom Aria's screams were sermons for the damned. Slaytanic Verses would revisit this period: the dirt, the sweat, the teenage fury that created one of metal's most feared armies. It was the start of a story that would burn across decades. By the late 80s, Slayer had become unstoppable. Albums like Hell Awaits and Rain and Blood weren't just heavy, they were historic. Rick Rubin's production turned their fury into precision. Songs like Angel of Death made audiences scream, protest, and bow at once. Their live shows were something else entirely. Smoke machines filled the air, flames burst from the stage. Hanneman and King dueled like gladiators while Lombardo's drumming shook arenas. Slayer didn't entertain, they exorcised. Every tour was louder, faster, and darker, but it came at a cost. Exhaustion followed, friendships cracked, critics attacked their lyrics, but the fans, they only grew stronger. "We scared people," Aria once laughed, and that's when we knew we were doing something right. Slaytanic Verses dives into this era, the perfection of chaos, the sound of fear turned into art. The stage became their battlefield, and each concert was a war they refused to lose. No other band in metal faced as much outrage as Slayer. Religious groups burned their albums. Politicians accused them of glorifying evil. Parents blamed them for every dark thought teenagers had. But Slayer never apologized. Kerry King said, "If you don't get it, it's not for you." The controversy only fueled the legend. Their concerts were banned in some cities, venues refused to host them, yet fans traveled across borders to see them live. It was rebellion turned into ritual. Behind the scenes, though, things were tense. Jeff Hanneman's lyrics, inspired by history's horrors, were misunderstood. Tom Aria's Catholic faith clashed with their demonic image. Dave Lombardo left and rejoined more than once. Still, when they hit the stage, everything made sense again. Slaytanic Verses captures this paradox, how chaos both destroyed and defined them. Slayer didn't just survive hate, they thrived on it. Every insult became another reason to play louder. To see Slayer live in the 90s was to face pure sonic violence. No gimmicks, no apologies, just volume and rage. The Decade of Aggression tour was the ultimate test of stamina and sanity. Fans called it church for the damned. Jeff Hanneman stood motionless, eyes cold, while King whipped his guitar like a weapon. Aria's bass thundered beneath his piercing screams. The crowd became part of the chaos, mosh pits that felt like battlefields. Security guards quit mid-show, venues trembled, and still the fans begged for more. Slaytanic Verses revisits these nights through never-before-seen footage and raw band memories. It wasn't glamorous. It was pain, discipline, and fury transformed into performance. Slayer gave everything: their hearing, their health, their peace, to deliver that sound. It was more than music, it was survival. As years passed, cracks began to show. Touring drained their souls. Jeff's battle with illness and addiction weighed heavily on everyone. The brotherhood that built Slayer began to fracture under fame and fatigue. Tom Aria confessed that he sometimes wanted to stop screaming. Kerry King couldn't imagine life without it. The tension became part of the art. When Hanneman fell ill after a spider bite that led to necrotizing fasciitis, everything stopped. The band carried on, but the energy was never quite the same. Hanneman was the heart of Slayer's darkness, the lyrical force behind songs like Raining Blood and South of Heaven. Slaytanic Verses honors him deeply not as a legend, but as a man who turned history's nightmares into unforgettable riffs. Behind the fire and fury, Slayer were mourning, and somehow that pain made them even more powerful. In 2019, Slayer took their final bow. After nearly 40 years, the Kings of Chaos said goodbye on their own terms. The final tour was both brutal and beautiful, a perfect storm of sound, sweat, and emotion. Tom Araya cried during the last show. Fans screamed his name like a prayer. Kerry King stood silent, fists clenched. It wasn't the end of anger, it was the end of an era. Slaytanic Verses dives into that emotional farewell, the fire, the memories, the tears. For the fans who had followed them since the garage days, it felt unreal. Slayer had survived every controversy, every death threat, every broken friendship, only to end with dignity. But endings aren't always final. As the credits roll, old riffs echo again, reminders that legends never really die. They just sleep, waiting for the next storm. Even after the final tour, Slayer's influence burns brighter than ever. Every metal band that followed, from Slipknot to Gojira, carries a piece of Slayer's DNA. The aggression, the precision, the fearless honesty. Metalheads still wear the logo like armor. Tattoo artists still ink the eagle and pentagram. Young fans discover Rain and Blood and can't believe it's from 1986. Slaytanic Verses explores how their performances reshaped metal culture, how their defiance became inspiration. Kerry King once said, "If our music scares you, that's your problem." That attitude built generations of fearless musicians. Slayer showed that music could be ugly, violent, and still deeply meaningful. That art didn't need approval, only truth. The documentary also takes viewers deep into the technical side of Slayer's performance, the gear, the precision, the chemistry. Every light, every explosion, every drum blast was timed like warfare. Dave Lombardo's return during certain tour reignited the spark. Fans called it the second coming of hell. The band played tighter, faster, deadlier. They never used backing tracks, never faked energy. Every show was 100% live, a dangerous, beautiful dance of control and chaos. Slaytanic Verses reveals how much work went into that destruction. The stage wasn't random fire, it was art forged in blood and sweat. Slayer's concerts were lessons in perfection hidden under noise. And when you look close enough, you see not devils, but four men chasing absolute musical truth. Slayer's story ends where it began, with sound. The same violent, beautiful noise that once shook small clubs now echoes through generations. Slaytanic Verses isn't just a documentary. It's a love letter to chaos, a reminder that intensity, honesty, and fearlessness can change music forever. In the final scenes, Araya whispers, "We gave them everything we had." And that's the truth. Slayer didn't just perform, they sacrificed. Their fire still burns in every riff, every mosh pit, every kid who picks up a guitar and plays too loud for their own good. Slayer's story may have ended, but the verses, the Slaytanic Verses, will echo forever.